Welcome everyone to this week's episode of Victini News. I am your host, Cuban. We have reached week 4 in our regular season, so already halfway through. While the standings are close, we only have 2 teams who have not gotten a win or a loss. Will this end this week? It can very well happen. As always, before we take a closer look at this week, let's check out last week's results. Starting the week off with Grixie and his title Town Tarantrums facing off against They Call Me Gage and his NC Noble Roar. Both teams were 1-1 before this match. As the match starts, Grixie gets some cheeky damage on Gage's Garganacl by first using Earthquake and then trading rocks with him. But as the trading between both teams end up with just hazard damage, we go to turn 8, when Gage's Goodra gets the first KO on Mega Scizor with a flamethrower. Not sure if Grixie was sleeping here, as Goodra regularly has flamethrower as a move. Gage smartly brought Acid Spray to lower the special defense of Pokémons switching into Goodra. And as the fight goes on, he even manages to get Clefable to switch back out and then hit a massive crit Draco Meteor on Gliscor for the second KO of the match. Clefable then comes back in and decides to do the 1v1 using Calm Mind to set up, after a wish, to get it back to full HP, and getting poisoned in return, it takes out the Goodra. Then a bit of trading happens until Tsarina comes in to clear the rocks. Garganacl from the NC Noble Roar challenges it as it keeps the rocks up while Sotcure slowly damages the Tsarina. After getting healthy again, Grixie decides to take out the Garganacl to remove the Rock Setter from the game. Meganium then comes back and instead of sacrificing Tsarina, Grixie switches into Arcanine, who then gets taken out by the rocks. This gives Grixie the ability to bring in Aqua Taurus to Iron Head the Meganium for the 6th KO of the game. Now, back to a 3v3. Maushold then comes in and does Maushold things, and Population Bombs Clefable back to its Pokeball, before himself getting KO'd by Aqua Taurus with the Revenge KO. Sneasler then quickly takes out Tsarina before Taurus once again comes in, now his Scarf once again reset in a 2v1. And Taurus actually pulls it off with 3 EQs, taking out Sneasler, and then Empoleon to take the 1-0 victory for Grixie and his title Town Tarantrums. Our second match is our predicted match of the week between Solaire with his Stormfang Covenant against Pandemonium and the Scarlet Knights. Pandemonium's score was 0-2 and Solaire's 1-1. Pandemonium gets a relatively good start, dodging a Toxic and getting a free Shell Smash on Torterra. Sadly for him, Trevenant from Solaire survives and hits the Will-O-Wisp. I do wonder what Solaire clicked on that turn when Torterra crunched the Trevenant for the second time for the KO. Cause maybe Torterra could have gone for Shell Smash again. Though with Trevenant KO'd, Pelipper with Scarf comes in and takes out Torterra with an Ice Beam. But this really felt like the last good thing that happened in this match for the Scarlet Knights. Starmie gets rid of the rocks, can paralyze both Fortress and Araquanid, but Solaire was in his head. Liquidation to take out the Aerodactyl switching in, and then Gunk-Shotting the Ninetales switch in. 2 KOs that basically ended the game. Crook gets a second kill with a second Gunk-Shot hit, and then finishes the game with an Earthquake to take the 5-0 victory for Solaire and his Stormfang Covenant. And thanks to this victory, Solaire is now back to being neutral on his differential, which is going to be huge for his playoff deciding games. Meanwhile, Pandemonium drops to 0-3, still looking for a win, as his chances slowly get worse and worse. Game number 3 has Ayrshire Claydol and Wolf as their coach, facing off against Blind Zero and his St. Louis White Cardinals. Wolf was 0-2 before this match, and Zero was 1-1. Can Wolf finally get his first win in Victini? Well, the game starts with an early Will-O-Wisp. I wonder if this was planned from Zero as he switched into his potential Guts Pokemon, Conkeldurr. Though it got the burn off, Wolf's Spiritomb was slowly chipped down with smart switches and hits from Zero, so Conkeldurr can take the first KO of the match, taking out Spiritomb. Palafin, now in his hero form, does get the revenge kill on the Conkeldurr, and then gives Komo-O the stage, as it sets up Dragon Dance. It is revealed that Komo-O is physical, as it takes out Feraligatr with a Thunder Punch, and after a second Dragon Dance, takes out Leafeon with Dragon Claw. Luckily for Blind Zero, the Glow King survives on 8% and takes out Komo before getting KO'd himself by Sandaconda's Earthquake. An easy choice as all 3 remaining Pokemons were weak to ground, at least before Delphox can Mega. Delphox then comes in and sets up a nasty plot, getting Parrot in return, but it does get the KO afterwards on Sandaconda. With Palafin taking out Delphox with a Jet Punch, Wolf is once again close to victory. Palafin, Snorlax, and Mega Chameco against King Gambit. Palafin clicks Drain Punch and regains enough HP to survive the No-Tau Cleave from King Gambit, but not the Sucker Punch, as Gambit takes the first KO. Snorlax is next. Iron Head, flinch. No way it's happening again, right? No-Tau Cleave does 49%. Snorlax survives with 6% and gets the KO with Fire Punch and secures Wolves and the Ayrshire Claydol's first victory in Victini with a 2-0 scoreline. For the 4th match, we have Nitor and his Death Valley Houndooms against Roki Magician and his Twilight Absols. Before this match, both of them were at the 1-1 scoreline, which means this was a very important match for both of them. And it is time for Trick Room, as both Corvigregus and Slowking switch between each other and setting it up. Tinkaton then misses a Thunder Wave, while Slowking gets the burn with Scold. Thanks to that and several additional Scolds, Roki gets the first KO of the game with his Slowking, taking out the Tinkaton. Switching into Chestnut, he gets Leech Seeds on Dragonite up, who in return takes out Chestnut before it can even Mega. Roki, feeling safe, goes and uses Trailblaze on his Sylveon, while Dragonite sets up light screens and does about half HP with an Iron Head. Thinking he got it in the bag now, Roki uses Hyper Voice, only to see Roselli Berry on Dragonite. Thanks to that and the light screen, Dragonite survives and takes out Sylveon as well. After this sequence, the game turned into a small stall war, as Venusaur uses Sludge Wave and Altaria sets up 3 Dragon Dances, while healing up with Roost. Knowing the Ice Shard Weavile was in the bag, it needed the HP for it. After ending with about 56% HP, the Altaria finally decides to KO the Venusaur with 2 Earthquakes. Weavile comes in, and Roki has to Mega his Altaria. Then we see a facade from Altaria. Does Weavile has no Ice Shot? No, it was sashed. Weavile then goes for triple axle and misses. Ooh, rough. Knowing that Weavile is gonna die, he reveals that he indeed had Ice Shot, and he gets a crit, putting the Altaria to 3% HP. So close. Altaria does take out the Weavile, and thanks to the Dragon Dance boosts, finishes the game with a sweep, taking out Quaquaval, Dragonite, Mega Manectric, Dragonite, and Mega Manectric for the 4-0 victory for Roki and his Twilight Absols. Game number 5 is DJ against CB Fries. The Bob's Bishops against the New York Low Kicks. DJ comes into this match undefeated, while CB Fries was 1-1. Can he even the score, or will DJ continue his rampage? A very smart start from DJ, setting up double toxic spikes into the team without a poison type. But it is CB Fries who strikes first, as his Mega Feraligatr takes out Orthworm, to then get revenge kill by Chandelure. Next to fall was Dragapult from DJ, who got taken out by Aegislash thanks to a flash cannon. But Aegislash himself wasn't going to survive either, as Excadrill Megas and takes it out with Earthquake. King's Shield wouldn't have helped here with Mega Excadrill's new ability. And then the toxic spikes show their worth, as they poisoned a Sash Cleavor, who does get Tailwind up for the New York Low Kicks, but is then taken out by the poison. But with Tailwind up, Diggersby looks dangerous, and he is showing up, using Earthquake to take out Tyranitar, Mega Excadrill, and on the final Tailwind turn, Toxapex. And with only Chandelure scarfed left alive, it does get the KO with Overheat on Diggersby, but becomes easy prey for the Infernape, as it comes in and cleans up for the 2-0 victory for CB Fries and his New York Low Kicks. In the 6th game, we see the Fighting Lando Tees from Red Sox Alex facing off against the Oslo Okedogis from Viking. Viking is looking for his first win, while Alex is looking to get a second one on his board. The start looks good for Alex, as he has Charizard X against an Ariados lead. But with Ariados sashed, it got what it came to do. Toxic Threat on the Charizard slows it down and poisons it, and then using the speed advantage to set sticky webs. Charizard does get the first KO on it, but Ariados did what it came to do. Fluette then comes in to Light of Ruin the day of Charizard X to make it 5v5. Samurott then hits the field and reveals that it's special, as it serves the Mioscarada from Viking, who came in for Fluette. A short trade sees us with Machamp clicking knockoff on Glamora, setting up a Toxic Spike on its own field. To make it even worse, Glamora then sets up Stealth Rocks, as the Earthquake from Machamp does take it out, but Glamora gets to set up a second Toxic Spike. Viking used both of his hazards for full effect. What a great play. Alex now has to look at webs, rocks, and 2 Toxic Spikes on his side of the field. Neumann is in the back, but can it find a way in with Defog? We will see, but first, Mega Dragonite comes in and Dragon Dances, and then uses Aerial Ace to take out the Machamp. Though Viking wasn't the only one with tricks up his sleeves, as Sinistra reveals its Cobra Berry to take the Aerial Ace and then fully heal with Strength Sap. Viking, though, simply clicks Dragon Dance again as Sinistra sets up a Calm Mind. A very big mistake, as Dragonite takes the KO on Sinistra and continues his rampage. Then it also gets lucky and takes out Gardevoir with a crit. And depending on the natures, this mattered only in a way that Gardevoir couldn't do damage back and potentially take out the Dragonite, as the poison would have normally always taken out the Gardevoir afterwards. But instead of that, Dragonite continues. He dragon claws the Neuwand to take it out, but then Samurott Hisui somehow manages to hold on and take out the Dragonite with an Ice Beam. But with only 3% left and poisoned, the game was over. Meowscarada comes in and cleans up, and Viking and the Oslo Okodogis win with a 3-0 victory. Our second to last match is the Belfast Graffians from Mevjuma against the Red Barons from Baron. Two undefeated teams, and only one will keep the 0 after this one. Who can position themselves at the top of the table? Let's find out. The game starts with a massive one-hit KO from Mevjuma Slowbro as it tanks the Earth Power thanks to a Shuka berry from Garchomp and takes it out with Ice Beam. I am a bit confused on why the Chomp was special. Well, a Sleeping Frostlass and a 5% HP Primarina later, Baron manages to get on the board with his Primarina, taking out Skarmory with Liquid Voice Hyper Voice. Though the game was even for just a moment, as Mega Lopunny makes its presence known. Scissor comes in to take the Thunder Punch, but then gets taken out by a Fire Punch from the Belfast Lopunny. Halucha is next, and the bunny also has an answer for this, as it triple axles the Halucha for a one-turn KO. With Rotom Heat then appearing, Lopunny had enough and switches back out. Rotom Heat manages to do some decent damage on Mudsdale, but does get taken out by a Stone Edge. And the worst thing is that Rocks got set up. Primarina now also is basically KO. And the final Pokemon, Frostlass Mega, was still asleep. Mudsdale takes out Frostlass and Primarina falls to the rocks for the convincing 5-0 victory for Mevjuma and his Belfast Graffians. And finally, our final match of the week. We have Mike and his Georgia Drillers against Recordman and his Munching Munchlax. Another match between two 1-1 coaches. This started a bit slower as both teams threw wet sponges at each other to see what happens. It takes a full 14 turns before Mike pulls his trigger on Mega Tyranitar, knowing the full set of Hatron and Dragon Dancing to take it out with a knockoff. Politoed quickly comes in and removes the sand, but this doesn't stop Excadrill, as Earthquakes look lethal into the team from Recordman. The first Earthquake takes out Heliolisk. Mike switches into Rotom Wash, who then gets Freeze-Dried. Yes, you heard it right. Freeze-Dried by a Mamoswine to get KO'd. A sentence I have never said before and I would have never thought I would say. Unlucky for Recordman, the Excadrill just comes back in and hits a flinch on the 99% damage Iron Head. A fake sash into a flinch. Mamoswine then can only click Ice Shard as it gets KO'd by a second Iron Head from Excadrill. Greninja then makes its presence known, taking out Excadrill and Espeon, but with Tyranitar coming back, the field gets shuffled again, until Whimsicott gets a Giga Drain on Tauros to take it out. Smart from Recordman to keep his Politoed and the Rain alive. It didn't matter, as we found out that Greninja seemingly had no poison move, and could not deal with Whimsicott. Whimsicott gets a KO with Giga Drain on Greninja. Politoed does win the 1v1 against Whimsicott, but with 15% left, Lucario comes in and finishes the fight for the 2-0 victory for the Georgia Drillers and Mike. For match of the week, I have gone for a little bit of a different approach. I have chosen Viking versus Red Sox Alex. It wasn't like the most nail-biting match, But I wanted to showcase this exact fight for people to see how effective a perfectly executed support Pokemon can be. Charizard X setting up is always incredibly dangerous, but Viking used his Ariados perfectly, getting poison and the slow on Charizard to stop it before it can even do anything major. And then also having webs up is huge for the game as it continued. And then even later on, the switch into Glamora, knowing it survives a knockoff, to then setting up rocks and sacrificing it to get a second layer of T-spikes up, was simply marvelous. Viking showed us in this game how to perfectly navigate his hazard setters, and thus it is match of the week. After week 3, let's check out our current standings. At the top, we have the only undefeated team, with Juma and his Belfast Graffians. Oftentimes, we have undefeated teams even until week 6 or 7, but I'm not sure if this will be the case for this season. We will find out in the coming weeks if Juma can keep the 0 or if somebody else takes the top of the table. DJ is currently second, with possibly one of the best differentials he could ask for. Having an advantage early can mean a lot for later. CB Fries rounds up our top 3. Interestingly enough, 4 to 8, so basically all the playoff spots, are filled with 2-1 record teams, each just having a different differential, except for 5th and 6th place, the Georgia Drillers and the Titletown Tarantrums, who share the same scoreline. I'm looking forward to see who of these 6 coaches will still be here in a few weeks' time. Continuing, we have Nickname of the Week. For this week, we have Mousehold from They Call Me Gage. Gundam is here to prove that he is the biggest Junie Mousehold in the league. And together with his family members, who he dubbed Children of Destruction, he's looking for the win. He's looking to win the league and become the supreme mousehold of this world. And for set of the week, I usually don't do this, but this week it is another Pokemon from Nitor, which is Dragonite. Even though it was a losing effort, Nitor was smart and switched the Sylveon favored matchup in his favor with a mixed Dragonite and Light Screens. He managed to take out Sylveon and Chestnut, which ended up being the only 2 KOs he got. Sylveon was looking at Dragonite like an easy kill ready to happen, but Dragonite just said, nah, I'd win. So, Nitor and Dragonite are our set of the week, with Rosalie Berry, Light Screen, Air Slash, and Ironhead. Enough of that, let's check out this week's schedule and the match behind it. First off, we have Bob's Bishops from DJ fighting against Baron and his Red Barons, 2 teams at the opposite end of the 2-1 spectrum. DJ has a favorable differential, while Baron has the worst one out of the top 8. But this doesn't mean anything if one or the other wins. They will have 3 wins instead of 2. Both are coming with a defeat into this week, one rougher than the other. Can Baron claim his 3rd win and bring his differential into the positives? Or is DJ gonna go double digits again? We will find out this week. For our second match, we have 2 interesting coaches. Pandemonium with his Scarlet Knights is facing off against Wolf and his Ayrshire Claydol. Fresh off his first victory, Wolf is ready to start a winning streak and show that he was holding back in Shaman, and this is his time to shine. Meanwhile, Pandemonium will do everything in his power to not drop further away from the others and get his first win of the season. Will we see a winning streak or a first win? I can't tell you that, You'll just have to check out the match and next week's episode. The third fight is between Viking and his Oslo Okidogis against Solaire Bear and his Stormfang Covenant. Both teams are slowly picking up momentum from their bad start of the season. Solaire will want to repeat last week's performance, while Viking has shown us how good he can control his team. Two coaches with one goal in mind: victory. Will it be via domination or pure control? Time will tell, and we will see who can come out on top. As the fourth match, we have Blind Zero and his St. Louis White Cardinals facing off against Nitor and his Death Valley Houndooms. Zero will have to be careful, because Nitor has shown some incredible sets so far. But the same goes for the coach of the Houndooms, as both of them are currently tied with the same score and the same differential. Winning this match will be a huge blow to the other's desire to reach playoffs, while giving themselves a strong position for the second half of the season. For match of the week, we have chosen match 5, the Belfast Graffians from Meth Juma against the title town Tarantrums from Grixie. Meth is the final coach who's still undefeated, but you can never count out Grixie. He might just pull out something unexpected and be the coach to end the final undefeated run. I expect this match to be very close, as both coaches have solid answers to the other person's sweepers. So strategy and the way you control your team will be very important to win this match. If the Graffians can take it, they are nearly already in the perfect position to qualify for playoffs. 4 wins is usually a threshold the final top 8 positions usually claim. Match number 6 is Roki Mekshin and his Twilight Absols against Red Sox Alex and his Fighting Lando Tees. It is 4th against 11th, our second biggest placement gap, but this really doesn't mean anything in the beginning of the season. While Roki has 2 wins, both weren't that convincing, but at the end of the season, no one will remember how you won, just that you did. Meanwhile, Alex will use what he learned from last week's loss to prevent that exact same thing from happening again. Has he found a way to deal with Roki? Or will Roki once again stand victorious? I am not sure myself, so I will just have to see for myself. Our second to last match is Recordman and his Munching Munchlax against CB Fries and his New York Low Kicks. The only difference is a single win and a single loss more, depending on the person. But they are on the opposite end of their record placement. CB Fries has a solid differential, showing that his matches, if he wins, are often clean affairs, while Recordman's win was small and his losses big. Will history repeat itself? Or will Recordman show up and deliver a dominating performance to rise from the bottom of the standings? Tune in to find out next week for Victini news. And last but not least, Day Comi Gage and his NC Noble Roars are facing off against Mike and his Georgia Drillers. Mike's changes last week worked and showed huge potential for this season when he took a solid 2-0 victory. Meanwhile, Gage hasn't shown us his newest member. Is this the time he will appear? Maybe Gage planned for this match and did his homework a week prior. I would not underestimate him, as his team looks solid against the Drillers. Was I correct? I guess we'll have to see this week. As always, we have some very interesting matchups, and people are slowly working towards that golden number to qualify for playoffs. Week 4 often shows you where you're standing, and if you need to do some final adjustments for the second half of the season. I can't wait to see all the matches and see what each coach brings to the table. But enough about that. This was this week's episode of Victini News. I'm your host, Kieran, and I wish you all an enjoyable rest of the week. Goodbye.